Welcome you, sir. You are very, very welcome in this program of ours. And fraternity. Welcome you, sir. We also have with us Communication and Documentation Officer of MDNAY, Mohammad Tayyab Alam sir with us. I heartily welcome you, sir. आपका भी बहुत-बहुत स्वागत है. Director of MDNAY, Dr. Ishwar V. Basavaredi, sir, will be joining us shortly. Now let us Vavatu Sahano Gunatu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Shantihi. Now, as I informed earlier, that to talk about languages for life, we have with us Dr. 2014. It is a pleasure of mine to invite him as a speaker here. I once again languages for life, and from my side and on behalf of Morarji Desai National Institute of Tayyab Alam is Communication and Documentation Officer of MDNI, and I would like to request him for further proceedings. Over to you, sir.
Thank Good evening, everyone. Respected Dr. Ramanujam Megnathan sir is a professor of English at the Department of Languages, National Council of Education Research and Training in New Delhi. Sir has acquired his education from Lancaster University, United Kingdom, and IGNOU. Sir was also an honorary scholar during the year 2000. By the AS Honorary Trust, United Kingdom. Sir has been associated with NCERT since November 2000 and coordinated various orientation and training programs and UNESCO-sponsored programs. And contributed in the development of National Curriculum Framework 2005 and National Focus Group Position Papers. Sir has authored and co-authored various articles book chapters in journals and books. He has conducted various researches in the area of language implementation and planning. Sir has been involved in the curriculum development like the service teacher education programs for the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan in 2007 and others. Sir has been associated with an academic editor of NCERT's 2 Journal of Indian Education, the primary teacher during 2002-2000. On various aspects of language education and language educations organized which is quite popular event for social media friends, student, staff, and faculty of the institute. With these few words, now I would like to invite our today's esteemed and speaker, Dr. Ramanujan Megnathan sir, to elaborate upon today's topic, language for life. So,
Thank you very much. Thank you for the nice introduction. I don't know from where you got all those information. Thank you. First of all, let me thank you. What's it, colleague, SQL colleague, and of course, nice junior, Dr. Vandana Singh, for this opportunity. And I'm extremely happy and privileged to speak online at the Moraji Desai National Institute of Yoga because I had fond connection with the Moraji Desai school students, then later university. I was in at school and laid new path. So I'm extremely happy on that count also. Okay, I have chosen this title when Dr. Andana asked me, so what would you speak about? Then I said, okay, be imagined without a language, including for those who can't speak and hear the language. I'm saying it very conscientiously, people with disability also. So language is part of human life, and language is essentially human. So in this one as languages for life. So that is the case I wanted this. Okay, why languages for life? I don't know how many of your students are participating. They try to apply their mind in order to do that. So let me take it. Thank you, Vandana. Let's first take a look at uh, the linguistics. Probably very meritorious as well as problematic. So before we start that, looking at the so-called presentation of the talk or on Facebook, is there anyone here who knows only one language? Is there anyone here who knows only one language? If anyone who knows only one language, please raise your hand or say it in on the Facebook thing. Is there is possible at least the forum like this who have done some sort of schooling? I would say that I essentially uh, essentially bilingual, socially bilingual. So that is one aspect. Let's keep it for some time. We are social bilingual. But what is the problem with the languages of India? This is another question we need to really reflect and introspect on the occasion of Mother Tongue Day, which is all. Let's take go back to the aspects of language. All humans are capable of learning at least one language. Nobody would agree, except that someone has a mental disability or that we also have sign languages. Good opportunity and time, given opportunity and time, and we can give as many languages possible. And there are research studies which say that. So, how does language learning happen? It happens in natural, authentic context. That's what the mother tongue we learn, the way we learn, and it and Indian bilingualism is social, multilingualism is social. I said, and how do in tandem. They live together like humans and communities. How languages give and take, borrow and lend. So this is how languages have been living. But right now, what is happening is Language hierarchy has been created. Some languages are least important. This actually makes us problematic, and language is problematic. Let's look at the other one. So, can you move? Uh, Next slide. Vandana, next slide. Yeah. Okay, look at not from language background. Indian census, and now it is changed. It is reduced. Then we have 5 language families. Everyone knows: Indo-Aryan, Dravidian, Austro-Asiatic, Tibetan, Burmese. Is 22 languages as recognized languages, quote unquote, and we have 121 mother tongues as listed in the 2011 census. So there's a mistake there. Dr. Vandana, you can correct it because this will be going everywhere. No, the 121 mother tongues are special language, which everybody knows. Why I'm saying it is we have a variety of number of languages and language families, and one mother tongues are spoken, only 22 languages are recognized. We know all of that. Then why, when we have 121 languages, why do we recognize 22 languages? We will keep this question in mind. Let's move on to the this one next. And otherwise, 42 languages are available as medium of instruction, and it used to be 60 or so in 1970s. Whereas now it has come down, and now the number is less, around about 30. Indian languages are receding in school system and academia. English medium is taking over, rather to protect, conserve, continue is something different. There's a greater demand for a particular language or a set of languages. What is that official and in curricular documents, in our public discourse, we keep we so political efforts to protect our languages by setting up Sanskrit academies, language academies, so on and so forth. However, there's a social demand for English language, and this instrumental motivation to upward mobility socially in people opt for English language, and it also has an impact implications for every sphere of life, and of course on languages, Indian languages. Integrated, be with the community for our language development is not considered right now socially as a necessity, whereas people are on with the social demand of demanding for asking for English language. How does it work in this one? And the English language has now moved from in the curriculum third language to second language, and slowly in CBSE affiliated schools it's almost like first language. So from colonial language to the status as a foreign language, and it is also considered quote unquote language of life, and social and professional status is being taken for granted with English. So what actually happens? There's a crisis of crisis than in social other spheres of life. This is minor and tribal languages. Then mother tongue, other Indian languages versus English. But whose language is it anyway? Particularly children with no mother. So this crisis has to be addressed on the occasion of Mother Tongue Day, and assume that all languages are important for languages for life. I remember there was a book in 1920s, early 20th century, to promote English language for life, one language for life. They said that language has to be spread so that it becomes a commodity. Everyone will like to upward. But I'm not saying how people learn many languages, multilinguals become a kind of repository for the person to have the language knowledge, everything. So this is how the language circle. One language circles the other. Look at it. English language has an upper hand, and majority like languages, Marathi, Kashmiri, and they come at the next level. Then minor tribal languages are actually almost at the why language and life are interconnected. You can't imagine a human without a language at least, and without languages in India. So language and life, how language and life goes, and how language and life go together in tandem. I come thing in a language. My language, I also know that very well. My language is my identity. My language is my literature, aesthetics. My language is my culture, my cultural funds of knowledge. My language is my cultural capital. And my language, life. So if that is the case, why can't we give a greater importance, greater emphasis on a sound language education in school so that children develop languages introduce one activity, and you may say it unmuting your mic or writing. Let me so that let's start. So here is a table. Language used for purposes. How do we use languages? Where do we use languages? Which language is used for what purpose? With whom and where? Look at it. Language is Tamil, and my second language, of course, is English. Or Hindi also I know, and I do not know any this one fourth language. So if I ask you to write in the chat box or your mother tongue, and I know that I'm in Delhi, and most of you the mother tongue and Who anybody? Anyone who is there? Mother tongue we use for some purposes, and of course, if suppose I am not from Hindi speaking region, where else I will use Hindi? So let me take my example. I use my mother tongue Tamil at home with my to speak my family, friends, and relatives at home. Then at home I speak, and I may not my personal, interpersonal communications. And I use my Hindi in the market, on road, and with the strangers. English language I use in my office, talk to people, to write and make a presentation. So languages are there with you, but are they different? Requires separate linguistic storage? That's the question we need to answer. So let's look at the next slide, which tells us something very interesting. Look at it. We think that I know Tamil, Hindi, and English. But Vandana may be knowing Hindi and Sanskrit also, and Urdu also. So we assume that the languages in our and if you think that monolingual is, have the first language and the second language, if you look at it, first language and second language separately, that is not true. Our mind has a common underlying linguistic proficiency. Biologically with us. So then, if this is the case, how language development takes place? Let's look at the next brain. One operating system like the computer, we call it CPU, Central Processing Unit. And the first language is there, that is my Tamil or your Hindi. And the second language is there, that is English probably, or maybe Sanskrit or any other language. Repertoire helps me to understand. So that the reason is, let me put it very in simpler terms. That is, every language has a grammar. Sentence structure. So that if everybody's mind who speak more than one language nicely and even one language understands without any reason or rhyme. So I to speak my first language as well as my second language. So in that case, I am using my language is embedded in my biological mental system. Let me not take the name of Chomsky, who's a language acquisition device. Many of you now look at it. How this happens? Purposes. So some languages we use for carnival purposes. Music, dance, art, culture. Otherwise, academic and professional life is life, higher education, most of technical education in English, to some extent in the state language. So what happens with that? We have carnival life separately, we have academic life separately. But that's not the case with any American. That's not any case with any French. What could be done that bridging it? And I'm not saying that all Indian languages are used only for carnival purposes. Tamil, Hindi, and Sanskrit, many languages are used for academic purposes also, but there is a limitation. And this leads to a kind of language hierarchy which we saw in the circles, which actually reduces us into, instead of making us bilinguals, multilinguals, we become somewhat separate, isolated multilinguals. So this is what actually language per se higher education to the school education. So slowly our languages are getting there. So language for life, which is my social life, becomes inferior when it comes to academic life. So how the so there are two ways language development takes place. One is high level of argument I'm making, which we can only understand. But when I go out and I talk to my friend or somebody who is who is waiting of language learning, language acquisition. One is basic interpersonal communication skills. You walk on the road and you ask somebody how to reach this place. I say, udhar jana, idhar jana. This is day-to-day language of here and now. But the forum, we'll have to speak somebody very professionally with the physician, doctor, or somebody. You use a language that is different, formal language. So cognitive advanced language proficiency. So every language learner, whether it is mother tongue or any language, moves from cognitive. But this is not happening with any language meaningfully of the school pedagogy, school system, even though it is ideally advocated is conducive, but it's not happening. With children, time spending the time spent in I spend more time in reading, I'm writing, I'm working with language, working in language, then every child that influences. If I am a good reader in one language, I can transfer it to another language. If I'm a good reader, my attitudinal development changes are different. And then boldness. Because the ideas he gives us is something which exercises my imagination. So languages exercise our imagination. Languages themselves are imagination. In languages, then that becomes their life. And languages for life. The next, yeah. Mm, yeah, so that's it. So I think anybody should answer this. Farmer returns from the market where he river. His boat is small, won't fit more than one of his purchases. He can't leave the she goat alone with the cabbage because the she goat would eat it. Nor he can leave the she goat alone with the wolf because the she goat would. This is a very crazy kind of market. He bought a wolf, a cabbage, and a she goat. He has to cross a river. The goat will eat the cabbage, and if you leave the wolf I want you to speak out and solve it. Anybody who is willing to do? Anybody? And people who are watching on Facebook also? Vandana, could you try? uh, this is easy one. I'm going to show the still tougher one later. Um, See, what it problematizes you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As you
That's it.
this riddle is
So
surely doing that
go to
because
the next one, then the other one. Leave that. Next one. Next one. Okay. Here is still a bit more difficult. One family son can make it in 4 and the daughter in 5 minutes. Unfortunately, not more than 2 persons can go through the narrow tunnel at one time. Moving at the speed of the slower one, can all they make it to the dog? Imagine if I have to solve it, I have to draw now. पहले बार ये लेके जाएंगे, फिर come back. We'll take it first time this one and come back. Those kinds of things. So this actually possibilities. So this we keep doing every time we play the cards or the video games, or when you talk to some your senior, if you have not done your homework, or to our imagination and our mental process. Now look at the next image. Next image. So this is how the basic interpersonal communication skills that is being. Then in all this, you have a common underlying language proficiency for everything. The common underlying language linguistic proficiency, which develops during the literacy years in the primary school, it goes on. Things how the society takes languages and academia takes languages, and as individually we take languages. I said 3 aspects: as individuals, psychological aspect; as humans, mental aspect; as stands for mother tongue, but at the same time it also stands for English language, which is actually taking a ride over Indian languages. Look at the third one, that is education in Indian mother tongue. It makes a case for it, but the social demand asks for English language. I go ahead with my language learning. The only way out is I need to become a bilingual, multilingual. That's what Indian education system through its language policy, pedagogy materials provide for, call for, ask for, advocate for. But in that case, in reality is the minor tribal languages are yet to come into school education. For example, there have been efforts by government of India and the states to bring in the Indian languages, the minor tribal languages into school education. However, so what happens? The state language, which is supposed to be Hindi, is it becomes the de facto mother tongue first language of children. In that case, their mother tongue is not there. So what will happen if my mother tongue so I tend to be my cognitive growth, my linguistic growth, language development gets affected. How does it get affected? Supposing I am a tribal child with my tribal mother tongue at home in my neighborhood and the teachers in Hindi. So so far 3-4 years I have developed my oral language, my mother tongue very well. This and that is complete. Then there is a problem of cognitive development, linguistic development. So instead of becoming bilingual through my language, I learn my language, then move on to Hindi. Children become instead of becoming so that will hamper them lifelong. So that's what we need to have languages for life. Not what I start with from my mother tongue, move on to add many more languages. Tamil is there with me, my Hindi, sorry, Sanskrit, whatever the language. Then and suppose people of let us say non-Hindi speaking region, it is let us say Kerala, Hindi, sorry, Kerala. To 20 years, English language has become a common second language across the country. In that case, so now English comes when I come to school, then Hindi also is there as a third language from class 6, non-Hindi speakers. In Hindi speaking regions, we have Hindi and Sanskrit and English. So if all three languages are really developed, if all three languages develop very well in children, then there won't be any issue. Harmonious language learning takes place. So let us make our children more than simply monolinguals or isolated monolinguals within their brain. Let us make them complementing, supplementing multilinguals. Meaning, I can translate from one language to another. I can transfer the skill of reading, which I have acquired in Tamil to English, vice versa. So if I'm a good reader in one language, I can be a great reader in another language. If I write poetry in one language, I can also write poetry in another language. If I have time, energy, and spend some meaningful reading. So this is how language learning is actually make somebody conducive to a harmonious life. But actually, the rivalry between languages, which happens due to political reasons, which happens due to the advanced we want to go life in the society by getting a better job in English, which may be a misnomer. Of course, English language is required for upward mobility in addition to our languages. So this language hierarchy makes children in trouble. So what is ideal way? Three language formula or any policy in education wanted that children begin their schooling with their mother tongue and move on to add many more languages. And it is possible to add many more languages. As the national policy also advocates, start with the mother tongue, then of course English language is introduced, then third language, then now on the three language formula, the national policy on education 2020 advocates learning of classical languages, foreign languages in high school after children have acquired at least two languages, then later the third language, along with the third language, classical and foreign languages. So this is how this national policy also attempting to give scope for making children of this country multilingual, so that they benefit and give it to the languages from one language to another. This is one way. I'm going to ask someone to read out a poem which I've taken, a kind of write-up from one of the important books published a few years ago. Here is a story of past times. I will give you the reference from where it has come. Before that, if anybody would like to read this 3 slides, because it's very important for me to talk about some of the things. Anybody? Let me read out. Go to the first one and the previous one. Okay. Story of past times. Once there was old man Luku and old woman Lukuni. They too were alone on this earth. There were forests and mountains everywhere. There were very beautiful springs with fruits, flowers, leaves, trees, and stones. The old man Luku and the old woman Lukini were very, very happy eating fruits that were in the trees. Thoughts in their minds. Next. As for clothes, they didn't have any on their bodies. God thought, if they stay like this, there will not be more generations. So God came down. There's a mistake, that CAME came down. God came down and taught them how to make liquor from grass seeds. They drank the liquor in a cup made from leaves of sour fruit tree, and they got drunk. In their minds, they felt another types of joys of thought. They thought about coming together as man and woman. They started calculating, and shame and arousal came to them. Next. So they covered each other up at the waist of the tree bark. 10 months later, Lukumi's body, a boy child was born. In this manner, they bore 7 boys and there were 7 girls. They spread as human on earth. It was a golden age of that time. There was no cheating, quarreling, cruelty, nothing bad. There was no cold or starvation, fever or sadness. The people remained in joy, happiness, and peace. This is called paradise. Now, this is almost like this Adam and Eve story. Adam and Eve story, which the Bible presents, Old Testament or the New Testament. Let me tell you, this resembles the biblical story, but that was written, let us say, 2000 years ago. Jesus Christ came and he created earth. There was no heaven and hell, but there was a fruit of knowledge which Eve wanted, so Adam ate, then everything came. That we know that, and we also know that Milton's John Milton's the famous treatise, famous literary work, Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. We know that Paradise Lost this is taken. This was actually taken from Leaf cup people, India's modern primitives. There is one chapter on that. It says this is taken from one of the Odisha then you will actually find uh, many more things are much better, much not much better. Many more things uh, more than what the biblical story of Adam and Eve is being narrated, the way it is narrated. So why I chose to give this from this book is it is a tribal community of Ho tribal community. From their oral traditions, this story has been around. Even now, it is around with some people, the elderly people. So in that case, which is older, the biblical story presented, whether Bible has taken from this, and definitely this tribe is much older than the story of Jesus Christ and Jesus spreading of love, compassion, many more things in the name of God or as Son of God. I'm not here to trivialize any religion or thing. Look at this knowledge our languages have. That's what this languages for life. The knowledge which our languages, Indian languages, possess even today, tribal minor languages, leave alone Sanskrit, Tamil like classical languages which are rich with literature and knowledge traditions, and the minor tribal languages which we now say that don't have a script, have much more to offer for today's life. That's why I say that languages are for life. In that case, as a person today living here as an academic, as a student, and more so as a human, what would I be doing with my languages, not one language? Of course, there are efforts to preserve, conserve our Indian languages, means minor tribal languages. On the other hand, there's a social and political, social demand and political response which go against the anti our languages kind of practices. So we are in a doldrum of we can't say a no to the English language, but at the same time we need to have our language. That is why the national education policy calls it multilingualism and the power of language. So let us adopt multilingualism, multilingual ways of learning, teaching, the schooling processes uh, as, as a normal practice so that our languages survive, our diversified, bicultural, multicultural thinking, attitudinal development, which makes us, which binds us being together. We talk about the saying Vasudeva Kudumbagam, many more things. And in Tamil we say that Yadum Ure Yavarum Keli, it means no man is foreign, and no land is foreign, nobody is strange. Everybody. So all these values, cultures of life and ways of life, practices of life come from these languages. So these languages exist not for the sake of being a language spoken by my ancestors and things have gone. It's not the case. The case is that the problem is the crux of the matter is we have languages, so we need to really benefit from our languages, and one of the ways and probably most effective ways to benefit from our languages is bringing them into school education. I tell you, the number of languages in school education keep reducing, and number of English medium schools keep increasing. The question of why few people enjoy the good English medium schools and why not? So is there a way that we explore? And I'm from NCRT, and it's our responsibility our systems uh, to come up to respond and make a sound language education, which ultimately benefit every child of today to lead a meaningful life with a meaningful attitudes and beliefs, and also critical language understanding, critical understanding of phenomena. Is able to critically question things in order to become a rational citizen of this country. So we know that I'm not going to, Dr. Vandana is here. She's a well-read person in literature. And very nicely she reflects, very, very humbly also. So literatures are instruments for promotion of harmonious life, critical thinking, and leading a rational life. I overemphasize on rational life because that is what is lacking today. Everybody thinks that my community, my language is superior, my country is superior. Oh, but when this country has has had and has been advocating the world a tradition of peace, love, harmony, that in which language is a major instrument for living together. So that's what. You may refer to this book if you find time when languages die. Languages die. Our a community's language dies, and most of the knowledge dies, and most of the habitations, knowledge about habitations die, and ultimately the community is endangered. It's not that particular language is endangered. We know that the primitive tribes, let me not call them primitive tribes, the tribes of Andaman, very few people live, and there are many languages are dead and gone, and every month a language is vanishing from this earth, and it is very, it's not coming to my language. So what is the way out? So making children to possess languages, making children live a language life very harmoniously and give life to language. So this is one. And the other one is we can't go against the English language because it also has other purposes to serve. I need to learn English language in order to go upward and get a better job. And government of India, government's efforts to give knowledge, higher education is being now offered in Indian languages. This is one. Second is Indian government now has recognized only 22 languages. Is there a scope? Is there a possibility that more languages could be recognized? For example, let me tell you, Bhojpuri has every characteristics and right to be a separate language. The same way, the Bhoti language spoken from Arunachal to what is that place? Arunachal to here, Kashmir, Uttaranchal, uh, is their language, but it's not recognized. There are many more languages, and it's also in a way opening up the Pandora's box because there will be hundreds of languages to be recognized. But I would say that nothing wrong in that. You recognize them. Let government of India do that because it's a democracy. Language is personally linked to life. Language is socially linked to life, social life. Language is political life, constitutional provisions on languages. Language is my right. So languages are for life. In order to keep our lives better, languages have to be fine. Let me request Vandana, the last one you show me. So, having said all this, let me also draw your attention. Early imposition of a second language. Supposing I discussed, we have a first language. Children come with the first language to school, their mother tongue or the home language. And all of a sudden, the state language is imposed upon them. What will happen? Instead of becoming bilingual, multilingual, children become semilingual. So this hampers language development, which continues till the end of one's academic life and later in social life. So we need to really strive and make our children multilingual so that they lead a harmonious life with meaningful attitude and skills to function in society and in academia. So that's why languages are for life, and life has to accommodate not one language, many more languages. So I'll stop it there. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. And if you have anything to comment, offer, I would be grateful.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for such a wonderful lecture from your side. I would like to ask a few questions if you would allow. Sir, one of our listener has asked, what is your comment on languages that are dying daily? As you mentioned in your lecture as well, that uh, most of the languages, every month a language is dying. So what can be done regarding that, as we all know that some of the tribal languages had only one or two speaker and the person died and the language also died with her. There was a news in the Hindu, I think 2-3 years back.
A
So
few years ago, yes.
yes, sir. So what is your comment and what can be done to uh, deal with the situation?
Fine. The thing is, we need to preserve our languages. The first and foremost thing is we need to document the languages,
Yes.
whether one speaker or many speakers. That could be done through schooling process. For example, the school has one child or some children belonging who speak this language. Then the teachers can, with his local language, that is state language or local language, try to make the child use the language, then simultaneously uh, what's that document it, the
Yes.
letters of the alphabet, because they may not have the written script, and put it in the state language, which are Roman script. English is written in Roman script, and then the knowledge system, the medicinal things they use, the tribe, the local people. So if that is done to some extent, we can at least preserve the languages and save the languages. Second is, and again, school education, school system is the only way how to save the minor tribal languages. Because once it comes into school system, at least 4 5 years, 5 years, 8 years, whatever the time, these children will learn the language. They will ultimately give it to their children. So that is, there are two ways. That's why we go for multilingual education, in which mother tongue plays a major role.
Yes, sir. Sir, you very rightly said that we should encourage our children, our students to be supplementing monolingual, because that is the way we can include and learn more and more languages, and uh, it will be a right way to celebrate International Mother Language Day. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today and delivering such an important and such an informative lecture to our to our listeners. Sorry. Thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of Murari Desai National Institute of Yoga and my own behalf, I would like to thank you for accepting our invitation and delivering such an elaborative lecture. Thank you so much, sir. I would also like to thank Director of MDNIY, Dr. Ishwar Basav Reddy, sir, and Communication and Documentation Officer of MDNIY, Mohammed Tayyib Alam, sir, and our entire technical team and our listeners as well for joining us today and supporting us for organizing this lecture. Thank you so much, everyone. And now we will end this program with prayer. Om
I
Sah.
also want to
Yes, sir.
sorry, give me a minute. I also would like to thank Moraji Desai Institute for Yoga, and I know that it's doing great service by producing meaningful, good yoga practices. And I would like to thank you and Dr. Mohammed Alam for this opportunity. And I also want to invite you, all of you, on 21st. We are celebrating International Mother Language Day in some cultural activities from Indian languages. It will be interesting. I'll send the invite to you also. You may forward, and your students or anybody is welcome. And it is held in the Central Institute of Education Technology, located on NCRT campus. You know that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.